Good morning, everyone. On this 152nd Memorial Day, General Order Number 1, Headquarters, Grand Army of the Republic, Washington, D.C. The General Order signed by General John A. Logan. It is why we are here today. Headquarters of the Grand Army of the Republic, Washington, D.C., May 5th, 1868. The 30th day of May, 1868 is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion. And those bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet church lot in the land. In this observance, no form or ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades in their own way may arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind and fraternal feelings which are bound together the sailors, soldiers, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than by cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foes. Their soldier lives were the reveille of freedom in a race in chains, and their deaths a tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism or avarice or neglect, no ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten as a people the cost of a free and undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull and other hands slack, let other hearts cold in the solemn trust ours shall keep as long as the light and warmth of life remains to us. Let us then, at the time appointed, gather around their sacred remains and garland their passionless minds above them with the choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag they saved from dishonor. Let us in this solemn presence renew our pledges to aid and assist those they have left among us, a sacred charge upon the nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept up from year to year, while a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of all departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to call attention to this order and lend its friendly aid in bringing it to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time of simultaneous compliance therewithin. Department commanders will use every effort to make this order effective by command of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief. The General Order signed by John A. Logan is why we are here today. My name is Donald Hershey, Director of the Veteran Services for the town of Dayton. We are here today to honor and remember those brave men and women who gave up everything because they lived their country above themselves. Some of them were only 16 years old. This coronavirus has shown how easily we lost our right to assemble, our right to freedom of religion, the suspension of Article 1 of the Bill of Rights, and being placed under house arrest. We thought those rights were inviolate. State governors have violated our constitutional rights. If a Marine Corps veteran who died on Iwo Jima, Saipan, or Guadalcanal came here today, he would say, "I pass the torch of freedom to you, and you let it go out," and he would be right. We have become like sheep, unwilling to think for ourselves and be independent of state and federal government. In 1776, they spoke out. In 1941, they spoke out. We have become too complacent. Freedom must be cherished and protected. We have failed to undertake our duty to preserve what these men and women fought for. Colonel Perry?
Thank you, Don. They made the ultimate sacrifice. Those words mean something to each of us. To me, they mean that men and women entered the armed forces to protect and serve our nation and its citizens. And when they entered, they each took an oath. And in part of that oath, they swore that they would support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies. They promised to protect us and our nation from all those other nations, leaders, or terrorists that would try to destroy our nation and take away our freedoms and our way of life. And during their time of service, many of those veterans were called into battle. And some of those veterans, during those combat operations, made that ultimate sacrifice. But what does ultimate sacrifice really mean? It means they sacrificed their life. They sacrificed everything they had. They sacrificed everything they could have been and could have done. They sacrificed their future with their families, their friends, their community. And who are they that made this sacrifice? You'll find the names of those veterans from Dighton right here in our Dighton War Memorial. You'll find the names of those hundreds of thousands of veterans that have made that ultimate sacrifice, starting with our first veterans in Lexington and Concord, right up to this very day. You'll find those names in war memorials in every town, every city, every state across our great nation. You'll also find their names in markers, in cemeteries, in faraway lands, cemeteries located near the battlefields where those veterans fell, keeping their promise to us. Memorial Day was created for the sole purpose of remembering, honoring, and respecting those veterans. And it is because of the sacrifices that they made, and because of the sacrifices that our veterans make each and every day of their service to our nation, that we can meet here today as a free people in a free nation and be able to enjoy those precious gifts of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness each and every day of our lives. So God bless all of our veterans, especially those that we honor today. And God bless the United States of America, home of the free because of the brave. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to welcome everybody here, and I appreciate everybody coming out to this ceremony. It'll be very close to me. Again, I would like to say I welcome everybody coming here for this ceremony in memory of all those fallen soldiers and men and women who have died in the past. I specifically want to thank Don Hershey for presenting this ceremony. I know it's not what he had planned to do. He had planned on a bigger ceremony, but because of the pandemic, he wasn't able to do it. But as he had said to somebody, that if he was the only one that was going to be here, he would be here and we would have the ceremony. So I want to thank him. I also want to thank retired Air Force Colonel Robert Perry. He and Don Hershey were planning a program for our middle school students to discuss memorial, what it meant to them and veterans, so that they can know what the meaning of it is. In addition, I want to thank the Dighton as well as the 245 all the work that you see over here. They did the reading and they did the planting. I don't have a long speech for you, but I do have two quotes that I would like to read. The first one is from Dr. Joseph Warren. He was one of the first casualties in the American Revolution. He died at Breeds Hill, also known as Bunker's London. And he said, "It is the united voice of America to preserve freedom, or lose their lives in defense of it. Their resolutions are not the effects of inconsiderate rashness, but the silent result of a sober inquiry and deliberation. I am convinced that the true spirit of liberty universally diffused through the ranks and orders of people any country on the face of this earth as it is in North America. And I would also like to quote a former commander-in-chief. Less than 1% of our nation wears a uniform, and so few Americans see this patriotism with their own eyes or know someone who exemplifies it. But every day, there are American families who pray for the sound of a familiar voice when the phone rings, for the sound of a loved one's letter or email arriving. More than 1 million times in our history, it didn't come. And instead, a car pulled up to the house, and there's a knock on the front door, and the sounds of taps floated through the cemetery trees. For us, the living of those who still have a voice, it is our responsibility, our obligation, to fill the silence with our love and our support and gratitude, and not just with words, but with actions, for truly remembering and truly honoring our fallen Americans means being there for the parents and their spouses and their children. That was President Barack Obama. Thank you. I would like to have the Selectwoman Nancy Gillespie. Thank you.
It's been a tradition for a number of years. I have read the poem in Flanders Fields. I would like to do that and dedicate this to all those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the lark still bravely singing, fly scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our Gold Star mother, Mrs. Jane Van Kuysen.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here. I wrote a poem. It's called Remember Me, and it's in honor of all our soldiers that have fallen. Remember me with smiles and laughter, for that's how I'll remember you. If you only remember me with tears and sorrow, then don't remember me at all. Our brave soldiers will be remembered for their love of life and the love for their country. God bless America, land of the free, and look around you, home of all our brave. So tonight, when you go home and you wrap that blanket of freedom around you, remember all the brave men and women who have fought for us in the past, and remember all the brave men and women who are fighting for us so that we can be here today. And remember all the brave men and women who have fought and died so that we can sleep free. My name is Jane Van Kuysen, and I'm proud Gold Star mother of Dayton's hero, fallen hero, John James Van Kuysen IV. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to place flowers on the benches for the last 4 wars that this great country has fought in. And the first one is World War II. I'd like to have Colonel Perry place these flowers here in memory of his father. Patrick Mendes come forward and place these flowers on the Korean War bench. Flowers on the Vietnam bench. At this time, Patrick Menzies will come and give us the Gettysburg Address, for which that cemetery was dedicated so long ago.
When you've done a thing for 50 years, you've seen a lot of folks come and go. I was asked first to offer the Gettysburg Address 50 years ago. Well, 1969. The Vietnam War was raging, and assembled on this green that day were many veterans of the Second World War and some veterans of the Korean War. A lot of them are gone now. God rest their souls. My dad, who fought in Guadalcanal in 1942, passed away in January of '69, and it was Walter Miller, the commander of the VFW post. He had fought at Normandy, who came and asked me if I would offer the Gettysburg Address that year. God rest Walter Miller's soul. So I lined up down at what was then Christensen's Flower Shop with all of the people honoring our war heroes, and standing next to me was Leland Bullard, the last son of a Civil War veteran still alive in Dighton, whose brother Joseph had been killed in the Argonne in France in World War I. Every year, until he breathed his last, Leland offered the General Logan's order that was so appropriately read again this morning by our able veterans agent, Donald Hershey. I have these blessed memories of these precious heroes to whom we owe our freedom. God inspired them to make sacrifices so that He could accord us freedom as a reward for their courage. General Dwight Eisenhower said, "I think for any American who had the great and priceless privilege of growing up in a small town, there remains with him always the priceless memories. And the older he grows, the more he senses what he owed to the simple honesty, the decency, and the integrity that he saw all around him. I hope that young people in Dayton always find the honor and decency that I found on Memorial Days in my childhood, and have the privilege of coming back here for as many years as I have to honor those who have made a decent life in a free country possible for us all. November 19th, 1863, at Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, an address by the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met upon a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is rather for us, the living, to be here dedicated to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead, we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth.
At this time, we'll raise our flags to their full position And at this time, we will play the national anthem. Please stand at this time.
Detail, 10 foot, present, arms. Raise the flag to their full length.
At this time, we have a rifle volley. We fire this rifle volley in hopes that our departed soldiers will hear it and know that we have not forgotten them. I would like to thank everyone for coming out today. I'd like to especially thank the Scouts for helping me with this, and of course Jane Van Geisen. Thank you very much. At this time we'll have the benediction. Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, help us to remember that this was founded as a Christian nation and that we will go forward to protect everyone's rights. And bless us and let us not forget the freedoms that we enjoy every day and take for granted, that they were given to us by the deaths of our brave soldiers who went before us. And in Jesus' name I ask that. Amen.
Amen.